That's why I love the hormone oxytocin. When I found out like how you basically secrete it is by doing things that make you happy. I mean, how cool is that? And it's such a healing hormone. So you literally, by taking the time to do things that make you happy and setting those boundaries to make that a priority, you're healthier, your family's happier, your spouse is happier. I mean, it's like there's this ripple effect.
Welcome to the Woman's Doctor podcast, helping empower women to embrace their body and soul's full potential. I'm your host, Dr. Cates, and after 22 years of working with patients, I found the answers to our health struggles are much deeper than most people realize. To help explore this, I'm interviewing colleagues and other wellness experts to get to the root cause so women can realize their true beauty and be informed decision makers for themselves and their loved ones. Did you know that there are only 6 days in a woman's menstrual cycle when it's possible for her to get pregnant, and even a smaller window of opportunity within that? That means if you're trying to get pregnant, you'll really want to know your cycle and maximize your potential during that time. So I've asked my guest today to talk about fertility. Dr. Noel is my guest. She is a licensed naturopathic doctor and has treated over 5,000 patients using natural therapies. She owns Shine Medical Center in Solana Beach, California, where she treats patients both locally and all around the country. Dr. Noel is also a frequent lecturer on health radio shows and at medical conferences, and is the host of the Dr. Low Radio Show, a top-rated podcast on iTunes that has attracted over 3 million listens. On today's show, Dr. Noel shares what she finds are the most common nutritional deficiencies associated with infertility. We also talk about how to balance hormones and improve your egg quality naturally. She actually asked me how I felt about the possibility of getting pregnant at my age, and you might be surprised by my answer. She also shares how our eggs are like small pearls. All this and more on today's episode of the Woman's Doctor podcast. Lauren, it's so great to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for welcoming me back. I appreciate it. It's been a bit. I think we did an interview, maybe last year, something like that. So it's good to be back. Thank you.
Yes, it's great to have you on the Woman's Doctor podcast talking about fertility. And I just think I still can't believe that the medical system hasn't been updated for the age of what's considered, or even just this term, geriatric pregnancy. For women 35 and older, right? Yeah. That is just the most ridiculous thing.
It should be outlawed.
I mean, it definitely is a motivator for any woman getting close to, 35 that's thinking, I need to get on this because I don't want to be considered a geriatric pregnancy. But for women that are 35 and older, it's like, we can't really change that term, unfortunately, but let's talk about, I think it's so interesting the way that you talk about hidden roadblocks, because I think that this applies to so many different areas of our health. And that includes getting pregnant. Getting pregnant, hopefully, is something easy that our bodies just naturally do, but it's definitely not always the case.
It's true. Yeah. And it breaks my heart when patients come in because they just feel so defeated and helpless when it comes to fertility. They go to their doctor, let's say they think it's going to be really easy, that it'll happen the first month that they try. And a few months go by, and then 6 months go by, and you're getting close to a year. And it's like, what is going on? Right. So you go see your doctor, and there's really not much that can be offered to you for advice. It's just more of, okay, is there a problem? Is there not a problem? Okay, if there is a problem, then let's look into, in vitro or IUI or one of those things. And it's just like, gosh, it makes people feel so broken, right? But there are, like you said, hidden roadblocks. There are things that get in the way of fertility that can be identified. And just like a roadblock, you can either go around it, you can get it removed. It's not like you're stuck. I can't say there's ever been one patient that's come into my office that I've ever seen them and put a label on them as infertile. It's never happened. There's always been something that can help with fertility, And there's been a couple people who have had to do IVF, but it's been successful. And so much of it is because we identified those roadblocks, right? We improved whatever hormones, egg quality, things we can get to. But it's very empowering when patients realize that there is something that's getting in the way and they can do something about it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the case. And I think this sort of wait and see approach of, oh, well,
Yeah.
if it hasn't been a year yet, don't even come in and talk to me. But yet,
Right.
like they're like, women are 35, 40, whatever age, and they're like, I don't want to wait a year.
Yeah,
I want to get going now with
exactly.
having a family.
Right.
And so, I mean, what do you think about waiting a year? You don't think women should just wait a year, right?
No, I mean, I think that even before you start trying, before there's a problem necessarily, I think it's just great to get a workup done. You don't want to have just a not unhealthy pregnancy. You want to have an optimal pregnancy, right? So how about do some labs? Let's see, are you optimally healthy? Are your hormones balanced out? How are your micronutrient levels? We can't directly test egg quality, but we can check a lot of things that directly affect egg quality. Those are things we can look into, because you can have two women go into pregnancy at very different states, right? And they're going to handle pregnancy differently. They're going to handle the delivery process, the postpartum process differently. So you can check and see, especially nutrient status. I love doing micronutrient deficiency testing, because that, I think, is the most vital part of having a healthy pregnancy, right? If you have optimal nutrients, you're going to have not only that for your baby, but for yourself. And so it really lends to a healthier pregnancy.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit.
Yeah.
When someone comes in to see you, you don't want them to wait a year, like we're saying. Like, don't wait a year of trying to get pregnant. Just go ahead, come in to see me as soon as you decide. I think we want to have a family. I think we're ready to do this thing.
Yeah.
What is it that you do first? What's the first thing you do
Yeah.
with a couple?
So I think there's a couple ways to go about it. You can kind of do like more of a simple route and do like basic testing, the kind of the most important things, and that's a little bit more on a budget. And then you can also do just like the most testing. You can do like heavy metal testing, toxin testing, things like looking at BPA and phthalates and all that. You can look at mold. I mean, you can go crazy with it. And if you want to have like the gloriously most optimally healthy pregnancy and you have the budget to do it, you could do all that stuff. Most people are not in that situation. And there are some, I would say, key things you want to look at. You want to check your thyroid. That's very important, because it's a very common reason why women don't get pregnant right away, because their thyroid doesn't, either they have hypothyroidism or it's just suboptimal. So that's really key. You want to check your vitamin D. You want to check your iron levels, because as you know, iron drops in pregnancy. So you don't want to start it with low iron. Again, checking micronutrients. I think those ones would be the most important. Obviously, looking at, any clues of infection. So like a simple, complete blood count would check that. And then blood sugar would be important as well. Markers of inflammation. And you can get all that with one panel. It's not a bunch of different things. You can get that all together. And that's a very good, thorough look at a starting point when you're trying.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what are some of the big roadblocks when it comes to fertility?
Yeah, so the thyroid is a big one. Unfortunately, patients don't get a thorough, accurate look at their thyroid very often when they go to their doctor. So they may be actually low compared to optimal, but maybe they're not out of the conventional doctor range. And so they just go through with having a low thyroid and have no clue about it until, they end up seeing someone like us and they actually get it addressed and then they're pregnant the next month. It happens all the time. So that would be a very common hidden roadblock. I think that the toxins are a big issue. Women have a lot more toxins in their body than they realize. And if they're endocrine disruptors, they're throwing off their ability to ovulate, to have, healthy menstrual cycles. And that is a big one that once that's identified, we put them on a proper detoxification program or retesting. It's a big reason that finally they can get pregnant. I've seen that a lot. Random though, food sensitivities. That's a common one. It doesn't seem like it would be much of a connection that like, oh, I'm sensitive to a food, it's affecting my fertility, but it's big. If you're eating something on a regular basis that's creating a lot of inflammation every single day, that's going to affect how your blood sugar operates. It's going to affect your ability to, ovulate. consistently and have the proper balance of hormones. And so I've had a few cases where we identify gluten sensitivity, and that's removed. And then finally they are able to get pregnant and stay pregnant and not have a miscarriage that time. So that's been also a common issue that it isn't really found. And I think a lot of it too is there's some real big mental emotional components with this. There's a big mental part, especially for women, like you said, getting into their later 30s or in their 40s, feeling like the geriatric pregnancy part. I think that as that mental view of fertility shifts, it really changes how your body operates. So much of our health is mental, emotional, it's on a spiritual, it's an energetic level. And so it may sound woo-woo, but it really changes things when you change that mindset. And healing old traumas, sexual traumas, a lot of women have PTSD and have no clue about it. So those would be probably the most common hidden ones. And then there's deficiencies that most people have no clue about. Yeah.
Let's talk about those deficiencies. Thank you for bringing that up. I do want to say before we go into that, trauma is such an important, we talk about that in the Hormones, Health and Harmony docuseries that you're a part of.
Yeah.
And I do think it's something that we don't want to ignore that. And so I do definitely want to say, even if you don't know if trauma is an issue for you, it's definitely worth exploring, because sometimes it's been so the memories are
Repressed.
hidden
Yeah.
down. And so if you're still struggling, say do some deep dive into that just to see what's there. It's not there for everyone, but 1 in 3 women are physically or sexually abused. And so, hey, I mean, the chances of it happening and it being a part of what's going on with your ability to get pregnant, chances are
Yeah.
pretty high. And
Yeah.
maybe it's a number of things, right? Maybe it's nutritional, maybe it's thyroid, and having that, resolving that trauma can be a big part of that.
Yeah. We can't simplify our bodies down to one thing. It's a collection of things. We're affected by so many things in our environment. So it's important to look at the full picture. Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about nutritional deficiencies. What are the
Mhm.
big ones for
Well,
pregnant?
vitamin D is huge. Vitamin D, I would say when I'm checking my patients, probably 80% of women are deficient. It's wild. And even the ones that aren't deficient, it's not optimal. So getting your vitamin D to an optimal place is key for the right hormone balance. Magnesium is another one. It does over 300 things in your body. So it's affecting your neurotransmitters. It's affecting your ability to heal and recover from, workouts and from stress. It's key for a healthy uterine because, any kind of muscle, it's going to benefit from magnesium. So your uterus is a muscle. So when that's deficient, it affects all those things. So that's really important to get addressed. I see a lot of mineral deficiencies, especially zinc. So for a lot of ladies, a low sex drive, very common. I mean, I would probably say 60-70% of my patients say low sex drive, maybe more. And not even women who are in their, menopausal time. I mean, I'm saying in their 20s and 30s. So zinc is a very important mineral that helps a lot with sex drive, helps with testosterone levels. So that would be a big one. And then of course, B12 and other B vitamins. I mean, especially through the pandemic, people have just been so stressed. So when you're stressed, you burn through these different nutrients faster, you have a higher demand for it. Also, if, your immune system has had challenges throughout that time, it's going to be using more nutrients as well. So it's important to look and see, okay, if my demand is higher, where am I at? Do I need to change things up? Do I need to step up my maybe supplementation? Or there, certain foods I need to bring in? So, yeah.
Yeah. So food is a part of the way you get these nutrients in, and then also
Absolutely.
supplementation, right?
Yep. So food is medicine. I know that's a big passion you and I both share. And I'm sure most of you listening, this is something you share as well. And yes, food is medicine. I'm such a huge fan of making sure that, especially for us as women, we're keeping our blood sugar very stable. We're not skipping meals. We're really honoring our bodies by eating consistently, taking that time and really setting boundaries with our time, especially lunch. That's a big one for a lot of women, busy moms. They just kind of graze throughout the day, and don't feel bad about it, but just try to have those consistent meals, because that's just so key for your hormones and your mental well-being. So that's very important. And eating the right kinds of foods, right? So looking at your plate, trying to have a rainbow of colors, greens, the reds, the yellows, all of those nutrients or colors have specific healing qualities to them. So just really having real food, and yes, you can live a little, but if the majority of your diet's looking like that, you're going to be in a good situation.
Okay. All right. Great. Those are all
Yeah.
fantastic. And then,
Do you have any favorite foods for hormones for women's health? I'm sure you
uh,
have some to add.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need those good fats too, right?
Yes.
So
Give me the
those
fats.
those are important. And then also things that help with healing our gut and our gut microbiome.
100%.
Right? Getting
Yep.
all, and when you eat that colorful array of foods, a lot of times you're helping your gut microbiome. You're getting variety, diversity, which we need,
Mhm.
right? And then you're getting fiber, which we also need.
Right? Yep. All the above. It's just your body just thanks you when you give it those nutrients. And it doesn't even have to take a long time. I mean, literally, if you take a week of eating well, I mean, it's like night and day how your body operates.
Absolutely. And let's talk about hormones a bit more. You mentioned thyroid. That does surprise people probably that thyroid is thought of for metabolism, energy, weight, those sorts of thing. But
Yeah.
but thyroid also is extremely important for fertility.
Yep, yep. A very common symptom with an underactive thyroid is menstrual problems. So having irregular cycles, and having an irregular cycle isn't very helpful if you're trying to get pregnant, because who knows if you're ovulating, and if you do, who knows what day you're ovulating. And so it can be a real issue. The thyroid does so much with kind of helping the body operate at a good pace. It helps with your metabolism, helps with motility of your digestive tract, and same thing with fertility. It just kind of gets things going. And so if that's slowing down, all these systems are going to be affected. So yeah, so thyroid is a big one, absolutely.
What about other hormones that you test for that you are particularly concerned about? I mean, there's so many
Yeah,
hormones that are involved in
so many
fertility.
hormones. Well, progesterone is a huge one. So it stands for progestation hormone. And if you don't have enough, you're not going to be having a very easy time getting pregnant and also staying pregnant. So progesterone is important for preventing miscarriages. It's a common prescription that we'll write for patients when they are in their first trimester to help prevent miscarriage. And a lot of things affect progesterone. So if you're deficient, bringing it back to nutrients, if you're deficient in vitamin A, your progesterone is going to be lower. If you're deficient in vitamin C, same thing. If your thyroid is underactive, it can make your progesterone underactive. So a lot of things, stress can suppress it, sleep deprivation, which a lot of us are not getting enough sleep. So all of that can really impair your body's production of that. And so addressing these hidden roadblocks is key. And sometimes we use progesterone as a prescription when we need to, but it can be a game changer getting progesterone to a level of an optimal range.
And I think it's important for people to realize that you have to work with a healthcare provider on this, that
You
it
do.
you can't just pick up progesterone and start taking it and expect
And a
for
lot of women try, they just like throw it on, just like, oh, this will probably help. And it's
yes,
like, no, you gotta be careful with
because
the
it can
dosage,
actually
impair
impede, yeah, impede
ovulation.
ovulation. So if
Yep.
you're doing it, not doing it the right time, the right amount, or maybe you don't even need it and you're using it, taking it as using it as a cream, which you can find over the counter,
Yeah.
and you don't really know how much you're
Treat your
taking.
thyroid yourself either. A lot of ladies, oh, I'm going to take, eat a bunch of kelp or seaweed, and they may have too much iodine, and that's causing the problem. So yeah, you don't want to self treat that either.
There's a lot you can do on your own. Focus on
Yes.
eating healthy, getting the right foods, and then work with an naturopathic doctor, integrative
Mhm.
medicine doctor that can, or functional medicine doctor that can really, especially when that focuses, it specializes in infertility, because
Yes.
not
100%.
all of them are going to know, right?
Yep. Yep. And another one's PCOS. PCOS is the main hormone imbalance or a syndrome that causes infertility. And a lot of ladies have it and have no idea because they don't have like the classic type of picture, but you don't have to be overweight to have PCOS. So that's polycystic ovary syndrome. And that basically is it's a imbalance of blood sugar that impairs your hormones. And there are other causes for it, but that's the main cause that we tend to see. So oftentimes women who have this issue, they're not ovulating, and that's the main problem. And their progesterone tends to be very low. Their testosterone tends to be very high. So their hormones kind of look more sort of male, they're not at a level of a man, but just the balance looks more like that. And so we do a lot to try to shift that more into that estrogen kind of picture, and progesterone. And so that's a big one. And naturopathic medicine is amazing at treating PCOS. Conventional medicine, really, there's not much beyond just drugs and not much to fix the problem. But naturopathic medicine, it's just, we're so good at treating that. And it's very treatable. I mean, we've seen it reverse, patients who are told they're infertile getting pregnant. And so it's something that is not a diagnosis for infertility by any means.
Is there ever a time it's too late to try and get pregnant? I mean, well, there is, but when is that?
I mean, of course, eventually. I mean, I think anything's possible. I think what was it, Janet Jackson had a baby at 52. So I feel like we keep pushing things.
Yeah. No, I know. I think it's interesting. I think as long as you haven't hit menopause, I guess
right.
to a certain
exactly.
extent.
And you could pop out an egg, least expected when you thought you were in menopause. Maybe you go 11 months and you're just a month shy of hitting that menopause. You pop an egg out. It's possible, right? It's feasible.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm 49 and we've talked with my girlfriends about this that are in the late 40s and early 50s that haven't hit menopause. Like, oh, still got to use birth control if you're not going to.
Do you want another child? Do you want more kids? No?
I mean, you know what? Having kids has been like one of the biggest blessings of my life. So if it happened again, it would not be the end of the world, right?
Well, if it would happen to anyone, it would be you, because you've just taken such good care of yourself. Yeah.
Well, I think that is a key here. When we take really good care of our bodies, when we nourish our bodies, we avoid toxic substances, including toxic thoughts, as much as possible. When they come up, we process them, right? We work through that. It just makes our hormones, that whole symphony of hormones, work so much better. 100%. And it's a journey. We're all on it. I mean, we have our predispositions, we have our things that it's a constant journey that we're all working on, including myself. So
totally.
I love chocolate, right? There's things like,
same.
Oh, don't bring it to the house. if I can't, it's like I can have a little square here and there, and it's good to have it every now and then, but try not to overdo it. Right.
Totally. So that's why I love the hormone oxytocin. When I found out that what oxytocin, like how you basically secrete it is by doing things that make you happy. I mean, how cool is that? And it's such a healing hormone. So you literally, by taking the time to do things that make you happy and setting those boundaries to make that a priority, you're healthier, your family's happier, your spouse is happier. I mean, it's like there's this ripple effect. So I just invite everyone listening, just be kind of selfish. It's definitely not selfish, really. Yeah, scheme of things, it helps everybody. But oxytocin, that's my new favorite, and that's a big one for fertility as well.
Right. I know you talk about oxytocin in the Hormones, Health and Harmony docu-series, and I'm
so excited for that to come out.
Yeah, it's so great listening to you talk about that, because it is such a great hormone. Let's talk about something I know that people struggling with infertility want to know about, which is what can be done to improve egg quality.
Yeah,
because that's important too. It's, you want to ovulate, but also you want to have that high egg quality, which is one of those things with age, it does start to change, right?
It does start to change. This is a big area where diet and lifestyle plays a huge role. The amount of eggs that you have is what you have. The quality of them can change, actually. So I love imagining kind of this bath of, this is where your eggs are. You have an egg, sort of think of like a pearl and an oyster or something, or is it a clam? Where are pearls from? I don't know. I think oysters. I don't know. Anyway, so the fluid that egg is kind of bathing in is something that you can totally change. You can affect the quality of that bath, both by giving your body the nutrients it needs. So that's where antioxidants play a big role. So things like vitamin A and C and E, selenium, glutathione, vitamin B2, these are all key, CoQ10. You can test these nutrients and see where they are in your body, and that's going to translate into the health of that bath. The other part is you want to make sure there's not the bad stuff in your system. So that's where we can do, testing for different toxins like BPA or phthalates or glyphosate, which is in Roundup. These are things that our body holds on to in our fat tissues oftentimes. what happens is when women are trying to get healthier to get pregnant, a lot of times they're losing weight. But you also, when you lose weight, you're burning fat and you can release these toxins, and that can affect the health of your eggs, potentially. So looking into all these things is a great way to help improve egg quality.
Yeah. So it's good. I mean, if we're going to do a detox, it's good to do it before trying to get pregnant. It's good to like do that. If you have time to do it, just like
and
do
you
that.
can't do it once you're pregnant, and you can't do it once you're breastfeeding. So if you want to do a detox, truly try to, press pause on the getting pregnant and give yourself like 3 months if you can. It's not going to make a huge difference in the scheme of things. And it's, I think, only going to help, really.
Right. And you mean it's not going to make a difference in the scheme of things as far as like waiting 3 months.
Exactly. Waiting 3 more months, and it may actually help your chances. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing. So some of those nutrients, would you say that those are good to supplement with, or can you just get them in a healthy diet?
I think most importantly, if you're not going to do the testing, take a great prenatal. There's some great, brands. I don't know if you want to mention brands on the videos, but
fine. You can mention brands.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love Seeking Health. I love Designs for Health. I love Orthomolecular. The company Needed is a great one that's new, that's come out. So all of those have pure encapsulations are good. I was going to mention them, but I don't like them anymore. So all of those are brands that that have great forms of nutrients. So definitely do a prenatal, a good omega-3. So all those companies make a good, fish oil. Those are like, I would say, the basics to start with. But if you can do the testing, don't guess, test. I know it's cheesy, but truly it's important, because you don't want to just take a bunch of things. Like vitamin A, you don't want to take it unless you really need it. Same thing with iron. You don't want to take iron unless you need it. It's not good for your body to have too much of these different nutrients. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And that's great. And you know what, honestly, it's great that there are certain supplements that are like, hey, I don't recommend that anymore, because it's true.
Right.
Sometimes we find out someone gets bought out by a bigger company, the quality goes down.
Happens all the time.
Our job as physicians to constantly be asking questions of supplement companies, and not just assume that just because we learned about it in med school that it's still going to be great.
Exactly. No, they're changing things all the time. That's a great point. And Pepsi will buy a company and you have no idea that happened, and the next thing the label is totally different. So
yeah. Okay, great. What about alcohol and caffeine when you're trying to get pregnant? What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's good to press pause on those. I mean, just take it out as many factors as you can. The caffeine is going to be a stimulant. That's not going to do you any favors. The alcohol, it's going to impair good quality sleep, especially, I mean, most people drink in the evening. We know that it doesn't really help with sleep. So, I mean, is it going to totally impair your ability to get pregnant? Probably not. Maybe it might be an issue. So I think just taking out as many factors and give yourself that 3-month window, just removing anything that's going to get in the way, and, bringing in some good supplementation, and that's going to really, really make a difference.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know that's always,
I made everyone mad just then.
What's that?
I said I made everyone mad just then. But I mean, and just checking in with yourself, if that's going to like create, if let's say coffee is your joy and it just gives you so much life in the morning, and having a glass of wine, a couple of days a week just gives you so much joy. I mean, do those things, right? It's oxytocin for you. So, but if you feel like you can't function without coffee and you're just dragging without it, well, that's an issue, and you need to look into that. So It's a balance.
And there's
right?
always decaf, right? So
exactly
like that would be probably a better
Put
choice.
on your big girl pants, you'll be all right.
In the grand scheme of things, 3 months is not that long. Especially when you have a lifetime of a new human in your life.
Exactly. It seems like a lifetime at the time, because usually there's that antsy excitement to get pregnant, but just give yourself that. Yeah.
Right. Which is way better than saying, keep trying for a year and then come back in to see me. Like, no.
Exactly. And it's like, you're not forcing your body to get pregnant either, right? You're nurturing it. You're giving the body what it needs. And fertility is just a natural side effect of that. That's how I see it. It's a good side effect. We think of side effects as bad things. This is a natural side effect of just doing all this love for your body. It just comes with the territory. It's beautiful when you look at it like that, right?
Right. Right. Oh, and you have a little one.
We do. He'll be 3 in May. Zion the lion.
Fantastic. For those of you listening, we're getting to see a picture.
He's so funny.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. So I wanted to ask you, is there anything that you've heard from somebody coming in about infertility, some sort of myth that's been like, whoa, that is a crazy one, or one that you just hear again and again that you would just like to just go ahead and bust right now?
Yeah, that the majority of the time, the problem is the woman, that a small percentage of the time, the issue is the guy, if there's a problem getting pregnant. And it's not true. It's actually, if you imagine a pie and you cut it into three pieces, a third would be the woman, it being an issue with her, a third would be the guy, and then a third of the time they don't know. So it's actually the same between the genders. And I think that can really help to give just some like kind of grace. And yeah, we can be so hard on ourselves and feel like we're broken and it's like our fault that we're not getting pregnant. And it's just as easily a chance that it's the guy. So that helps mentally.
And that's a great point. We've been talking mostly about women, but what we talk about with hormones, nutrients, gut health, trauma, stress, all of that stuff, it applies to men too, because
Totally
it can
does.
affect their sperm quality. It can affect their ability to perform, all of that stuff, right?
Yep. And I love when patients come in and it's the couple that they're doing the work individually and both getting healthy. And it's just, it's great. Yep. So there's sperm quality. You can have sperm that have double heads. You can have sperm that swim in circles. You can have sperm that's very slow. It doesn't move very fast. All of that can be improved. Guys, I mean, fortunately, they make new sperm. So they get a reset button every 4 months.
But again, nutrients, like their diet, the toxins that they're exposed to, all of that plays a role. So make sure you bring your guy in with you.
Yep.
Don't let him get off the hook.
Nope.
Yeah. All right. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for your information today. Truly appreciate it. It's so important when women are ready to couples are ready to get pregnant. It's like, okay, let's do this. What's it going to take? So thank you for sharing your information today. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. I've taken like the last couple of weeks off, but I'll be back on. Sometimes you just need a break, but I'm on Instagram, Dr. Lowe. So it's Dr. spelled out, DOCTOR_LO. So that's probably the best way to get directly in touch with me. But if you like to be a patient, I see patients at Shine Natural Medicine. So I'm in San Diego and I work with patients all over the country. So if you're not local, it's not an issue. So we can do Zoom or phone and do all the lab testing and all that good stuff. And then I have my podcast, Dr. Lowe's Show. So if you want to learn a lot more about this, I've had Dr.Cates on the show, so you can check all of that out. And thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, it was great having you. And I can't wait to share your interview in the Hormones, Health and Harmony docuseries.
Cannot wait. I'm so excited to see it.
Thank you for listening to the Woman's Doctor podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with the women in your life. And to learn all about balancing hormones, join us for the Hormones, Health and Harmony docuseries at thewomansdoctor.com.